But like the ocean, it gives you peace. So will my program.
To get from you a little bit more of your inspiration.
Governments that are involved, we've been able to form an environmental working group.
Issue of equal opportunities in terms of sharing departments on energy. We have invested approximately or given aid.
Perhaps talk practical profile first.
USAID has given an aid of $1.9 million to this project. A lot of women look up to you, and at one point thought you were going to go into the Senate. Any chance of you still doing that? Or you're going to do more of the voluntary work?
I think that with the new life that my husband and I are making together, we find that it's giving us a lot of satisfaction to be able to volunteer a lot in the world of things that we think are important. And we also enjoy some new businesses, more time for our family. We have 2 grandchildren. Our second daughter just got married last April, and life is very full. We will always care about other people, other communities, and our own. But life is very full and rich. I'm not going to change that.
No, I think that when you're on your own, you're able to actually give more of your true self without the hindrances of having to worry about what the party is saying or what the group is saying, because this allows you to be yourself and who you really are and give as much as you can give.
Connection, and that just like your heart can be sick, or you can have high blood pressure or diabetes, your brain can also have an illness and it can get well. And one thing we have learned is that there's diagnosis, there's usually treatment for whatever the illness is. Sometimes we're talking about severe things like a mental retardation or severe cases of schizophrenia. But even with those illnesses now, with the medicines that we have, people can live outside of homes. They can live independently with somebody maybe just checking in on them. And you know, in the world today, depression affects women twice as often as men. And I'm talking about clinical depression. I'm not talking about a day where you are, oh, we have the blues today. We're talking about an illness of the brain that can be diagnosed and treated. And the really hopeful thing that we must tell people is that there are treatments and medicines now for all of these illnesses, which allow people to continue living very full lives. And we have to do something about the stigma. And I know it's culture-based. It's something that's ingrained in us from the beginning of time because it's through behavior. So it's a very tough issue to deal with. But if we look at scientific data and medical evidence, then we understand these are illnesses just as other illnesses.
interesting topic. You spoke about the mentally challenged and the physically challenged as well. Why and where did you get this interest from?
Well, I got this interest because my mother actually suffered from a mental health issue. She suffered from depression from time to time. She was a working mother. She and my father divorced when I was young. So I watched her make a life and work, and then sometimes become very depressed and have to go to the doctor, and she would have to rebuild her life. So I wanted to learn as much as I could about this illness, and I studied it in school. I got a master's degree, and I understand that it's something that we have to educate ourselves about, because when something happens with the human mind, with the brain, it shows itself through the way we behave and act, and it's very disturbing to people, and it's frightening, and I know that many families don't want to admit that they have someone.
They hide it.
They hide it, although 1 in 4 families in the whole world has somebody with a mental health issue.
Well,
so we shouldn't hide it.
Again, we move on to children. You find challenges with children as well. But you, like my family, you also have the whole family orientation, and you're very interested in what happens to children in terms of what they get to listen to, what they get to watch. And you got a lot of controversy as well when you talked about parental guidance, on the music and the lyrics, which, if a few years ago I'd have probably been on the other side saying, what's she talking about,
Yes, you would have been part of the controversy saying, what is she talking about? But this was in the 1985 when my children were young, and I noticed that they were listening to music that was very graphic. It was about sexual assaults. It was about rape, murder, all kinds of things in very graphic detail. Now, mixed into wonderful, great music that they liked. So I said, well, how do I know as a parent what's what?
Yeah.
And so many people are juggling work and family. So we hit on a solution, the Parents Music Resource Center, which is a group that I founded along with some other people, that asked the record companies to put a label on when they knew that there was graphic material in the lyrics, and it says explicit lyrics, parental advisory. They have been doing that since 1986, I think. And it's helpful because now in the United States, when parents are in a store or grandparents buying for their grandchildren, they can take a look, and if it has that label on it, then they know it contains explicit lyrics, and they can decide themselves whether or not to buy it. So there's no censorship.
Yeah.
So you cannot ever have censorship.
But it's a choice. But
it's a choice.
Yeah. Because one of the things that I found is that now I'm the one saying, what are you listening to?
Right.
I mean, shoot the police and let them die. And I'm like,
Yes.
no, don't shoot the police and don't let anybody die. But it's like, but it's music. And I'm like, no, it's not music. Because for once, I'm beginning to be on your side, whereby I begin to feel that what we're listening to actually begins to affect our psyche. And I find that youths are more violent, even here in Nigeria. There's always this anxiety of wanting to have more because all they keep talking about is how they're in their G-Wagon and in their crib they've got this and they got that. So, you've had a lot of few things that have made me come to your side where I feel, okay, we should have some kind of guidance on the music. We should try and make people. But I feel that more, we should now begin to look at it from the, using the word from my dad, the holistic area of making sure it's a global initiative so that it's not just being done in the States, but also across the world, it begins to apply. So because we're having the same things here. And I probably am one of those that look at the world more as a global village because of my upbringing, where I brought up, by my parents, Africans, but brought up in the West. So I had two cultures to deal with. I had the culture of going to school in Oxford and in England and living my life for 27 years there. I had parents who were steeped in culture in Nigeria as well. And so you were learning two cultures all the time. And my mom had that effect as well, whereby some of the stuff I used to wear, she used to say, you can't wear that. You can't go to a party with me wearing that. Mama, why can't I wear trousers to church on Sunday? No, you can't. You got to wear a skirt. And I find that when I'm here with her, even till now, I dress according to her rules. But once I enter the plane and I get to England and I want to go to church, however I'm dressed that day is how I'm going in there. And it's just, I'm finding that rather than look at it, is there any way we can move forward and find that the whole idea of the society which you set up would be able to work with other companies or groups, NGOs in Nigeria and other parts of the world to push for kind of relating to what you just did, writing what the lyrics are, how they're going to be affected. Is there any way we can relate to it?
Well, I think you bring up really two good points. So one is that when you're a child, it's good to have a rule to break, but no rules at all. And a boundary to sneak around, right? Then no boundary at all. And children need that to feel safe. And of course they're going to break the rule a little bit, and they're going to. But the other thing is that particularly with young people that don't have a lot of a good stable home, let's say they don't have a good stable home like you had to grow up in, and they just have each other, and then they hear the music and maybe they go to a lot of violent films, and they think it's the norm, perhaps, these messages that they're hearing. It might have a bigger influence on them. So we need to be mindful of that. In stable homes, we can give guidance to our kids, even if they do hear this music or go to these movies. We can still say, this is right and this is wrong. But I think that the other point you make about globalization and how we all have to care for our young people in our communities is a good one. You have to figure out a way that other countries can do it in a voluntary way. Music now is probably coming into Nigeria, not only from the United States, where it would have a label on it saying explicit lyrics, but if it's coming from other countries or other sources, then how do you achieve that end? I think it's up to people like yourself and others to educate parents and educate the public. Perhaps ask the record companies in other countries why don't they follow the model that America started, and perhaps do that voluntarily. But it comes down to the parents in the home or the adult in the home that's caring for the child, and they need to know, hey, they have to pay attention to this.
My father's approach to politics was he wasn't ready to compromise himself, and that made it that it was easier for him. I know it's
Right.
It's been really nice talking to you. I wish I had more time, but it's, I needed to grab this time with you. And I thank you very much for coming to Peace of My Mind. And I hope that whenever I have the chance of being in the States, I can have a larger interview on other subjects with you.
Well, you certainly can. Thank you for having me on the show.
No problem.
Yeah, we'll just Michael or Charles. I think by the time we get to them. Michael comes up, by chance, can you tell him we're already down?